Al Jazeera America has an interesting write-up about how the annual cost for housing an inmate in New York City jail exceeds 4 years at Harvard. 1 year in a New York City jail costs more than 4 years at Harvard or a similarly priced Ivy League school. This is based on a report by the Independent Budget Office, which found that in 2012, it cost New York $167,731 to hold each of its daily average of just under 13,000 inmates, or about $460 per inmate per day. Undergraduate tuition at Harvard is just under $39,000 a year, or $155,500 for a 4-year degree. Of course, many of those inmates were being held for drug offenses, surpassing the number of those being held for murders or robberies. The inmates are disproportionately African American and Hispanic, as we know, Lewis, and many of them are kept in these very expensive facilities. There is, of course, Rikers Island, which is just basically from the LaGuardia runways, the runways at LaGuardia Airport in northern Queens. You can see Rikers Island. It's just off there. It's like it's its own facility. It has its own power plant. It's incredibly expensive. The issue here to me, there's two issues. Number one is we have such a serious problem here in terms of, I understand some criminals can't be rehabilitated, but look at what we're paying for 1 year for nonviolent drug offenders and murderers alike, right? It's for both. You could literally send them to Harvard for 4 years for less money. And many of these individuals can be rehabilitated. Nonviolent drug offenses, in many cases, not large amounts of often marijuana, that really warrants paying more in a year for this person to keep them jailed than what it costs for 4 years at Harvard?
I'm willing to bet a lot of these people need no rehabilitation and you could just fine them. Well, then we'd be making money. I mean, take these numbers and extrapolate them and look at how much money it's costing the entire country. It's incredible.
And then the number two element here, of course, is the insanity of the prison industrial complex. Many of these are not private prisons, but we know that part of the reason why there is such an interest in running, operating, buying, and administering private prisons is because there's so much money to be made because the prisons are stuffed full of people who are there for nonviolent drug offenses. So not only are you literally ruining people's lives in many cases for crimes that pale in comparison to murders and armed robberies and so on and so forth, but you are feeding these private prison companies, and because of the ownership stakes that many big banks have in them, you are also feeding Wall Street. It's just a horrible, vicious circle.
It is. It needs to change, but it's going to take a long time for that to happen.
DavidPakman.com/membership. Lewis is going to give us the update on today's bonus show, which you have to be a member to be able to watch or listen to, about this pyramid schemer who is trying to draw Lewis in. I thought we heard the end of it yesterday. No, there is more. That's on today's bonus show. Sign up, and we'll be back with more after this, including your voicemails.